Wilson, 37 Training Wing Commander, here with our Command Chief, Chief Blazier. Pretty big day today, Chief. We had some pretty big guests. Air Force's senior leadership, top three here today with us. Secretary Barbara Barrett. We had the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, General Brown, and Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Chief Bass, all here with us today.
Yes, sir. Yeah, amazing day for Warhawk Nation, sir, and I think it says a ton. Of all the places that they could have gone, of all the bases, they came to the Gateway Wing, sir. It's just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to commemorate that special occasion today, we are going live. This is our first actual live stream. So encourage those of you out there today, if you have any questions or you want to talk to Chief and I, throw out a little Q&A while we do this. We're happy to do that. We won't be able to necessarily get to all the questions, but we'll do our best.
We'll try.
Yeah, we'll try. All right, so just a real quick recap. So Secretary Barrett led off this morning in the Sphinxton Reception Center, the PRC. Apologies, had trouble getting that out. In the PRC, she led off talking about the legacy of the Air Force, about to those graduates that were out there, about the line of professionals that they follow in their footsteps, talking about heroes like Chappie James, who was a Tuskegee Airman, first African-American 4-star in the Air Force. Pretty awesome. Her remarks were very moving.
Yes, sir. And then followed up by Chief Master Air Force number 19, Chief Bass. You know, she came up and she really talked about sort of the power of the choice to serve. And if you think about who was in the room, so we had about half the audience was our recent BMT graduates. So just as of yesterday, they became American Airmen. And the other half of the room was career airmen who continued to make the choice to serve and stay in our Air Force. And I would like to say to everybody, we wish that we could have filled the stadium downtown in San Antonio with every member of the wing for them to be able to say thank you to you. That they told us directly that was one big purpose of coming here, because they recognize the incredible work that the men and women of this wing are doing and the sacrifices they've made and their families have made, sir. So we hoped in this forum to be able to just express their thanks to you and the choice you make to deliver for our Air Force.
Yeah, those that were involved in the visit today throughout did an awesome job. But unfortunately, you know, we just don't have time to see everybody, but do the best we can. And believe me, those that represented our wing, the Gateway Wing, represent us very well. And then finally, we had the Chief of Staff, General Brown, kind of his first remarks that we'd at least had an opportunity to see recently. And General Brown talked all about the innovation of culture, or the culture of innovation, rather. You can see it here in the Gateway Wing. Everything we've done, from BMT to tech training to keep the pipeline fully open, the fact that DLI and IAAFA are now doing in-residence courses, you can see it across the board. He talked about the culture of innovation. He talked about AFWorks. They had just been to AFWorks, and the fact that innovation isn't just technology, right? So innovation is about airmen and airmen thinking through things in the best possible way to do things. And finally talked about competition. He says, we got some big competitors out there right now who are also trying to innovate. And he said, you know what, bring it on, because we're ready for you and we're going to beat you. Absolutely. So great having the top three here today. Next, moving right along, I also wanted to let everybody know that we have the Tech Sergeant release pending for next week. So supervisors have been notified, commanders have been notified, but unfortunately due to public release requirements, we're going to have to wait. But I just want to put out there that we've got our Tech Sergeant list coming out here real quick next week. Also, our IAAFA campus, we are starting to bring students back into IAAFA, and as a matter of fact, we have our first graduation banquet scheduled for the 9th of December for IAAFA. So, Chief, I've not had the opportunity to participate. Can you walk us through what one of those looks like?
Pretty excited about it. You think about, you've been doing ALS graduation before, sir, right?
Right, sure.
If you think about that, and I don't know, it is, there ain't no party like an IAAFA party. I'll just tell you that. It is this the beauty of IAAFA and the culture and the way that, I mean, I have seen everything from it's the interaction of cultures in different countries, but I mean, I've seen everything from general officers from Mexico doing line dancing with some of our own senior airmen, right? Like, and it's just this beauty of culture, just celebrating what it is to be partners, to respect each other and to team up. And it's, sir, I can't wait. I can't wait for it to
Nisa and I have heard all about it. We're super excited. I know you and Jen will be there for sure. Big party, can't beat it. But of course, so we are under the COVID restrictions, and so just so everybody knows, we absolutely are going to consider health and safety. We are going to do it with all the CDC guidelines in play. But as I have said on numerous occasions, this will be our third Freeform Friday. I think I've said it every single time. We are pushing forward with a mission. We are pushing forward to get back to business as usual as best we can, while still making sure we instill a culture of safety out there in our workforce.
Yes, sir. And I think that's the point that all of us are looking at is, COVID is not going to restrict us from doing things within our heart and our spirit to get out there. And really that is a moment of celebration in all the different training courses in IAAFA, and it all kind of comes to that capstone. So we still will hold on to the fact. Same thing we're doing for our senior NCO induction. You know, that's something to where we could have just emailed out certificates. We could have said, hey, thanks. But it's a big deal becoming a senior NCO. So you can expect that in September. So all our selects out there, we'll also have more information coming out for our senior NCOs, because it's all about not only coming into what it means to be a senior non-commissioned officer, but it's a powerful moment for their families that we're not going to let slip.
So we've announced the IAAFA graduation's coming up, the senior NCO induction. I think we got another announcement to make. I think we're going to announce some quarterly award winners.
Let's get it, sir.
All right, you go first, Chief.
Okay, so for the junior enlisted category, and cool thing about our wing is, we're not just airmen here. So we've got Marines, we've got soldiers, and in this particular case, junior enlisted category, Specialist Christopher Brulette, all the way from the 341 TRS, representing the military working dog, sir. So all these winners represent their teams, but I think it's pretty awesome. We got a soldier that is our wing junior enlisted member of the quarter, sir. Yeah,
so the 341st, it's the executive agent for all military working dog programs. So we get not only Army soldiers, we get Marines, you name it, across the board. The support we do with TSA, it's a true joint interagency operation. And so thanks so much, Specialist Brulette. That's awesome. So next, we got our non-commissioned officer of the quarter, Master Sergeant Miranda Schaefer. So just pinned on Master Sergeant. That's why she's the NCO. Chief, we had an opportunity to meet Sergeant Schaefer when we were out at the reception center in the airport.
Just a couple weeks ago. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Yes, sir.
Amazing airman. Go ahead.
All right. So senior non-commissioned officer category is also from the 737 TRIS. Master Sergeant Jeffrey Wadsworth. So this individual, I'll tell you talk about servant leadership. He is always behind the scenes, putting his airmen out in front, but he's always part of success.
Yeah.
And he definitely has high standards. So congratulations, Sergeant Wadsworth, and the entire TRIS.
All right. Our company grade officer of the quarter is Captain Anthony Rowe from the 332nd TRIS. Big congratulations to him.
Field grade officer of the quarter is Major, I'll get some push-ups for that later, but Major Angelica Silva Garza from our own wing staff agencies.
Awesome. Our civilian non-supervisory category 1 award winner is Mr. Jose Edwin from the 37th TRG.
Congratulations. Definitely. Our civilian non-supervisory category 2 is Mr. Ralph Sanchez from Viva IAAFA.
Viva IAAFA. Our civilian non-supervisor Cat 3 award winner is Mr. Dale Blake from the 37th TRG. Big congrats, Dale.
Our civilian supervisor category 1 is Mr. James Garza from the 637th TRIS.
All right, DLI representing. Civilian supervisory Cat 3, Miss Edelmira Nichols from the 637th TRG. Again, another DLI award winner. So big congratulations. We sent that out internal to the wing earlier today. But we said we would announce it on Freeform for not only the wing at large, but all of the spouses and anybody else that wanted to be a part of that announcement. So congratulations to all our quarterly award winners. All right, next I wanted to talk a little bit about infrastructure. I know infrastructure is not always the sexiest thing to be able to talk about, but this week we had the opportunity to host a 2-star general, Major General Milhorn, and a member of the Senior Executive Service, Dr. Altendorfer. Both from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. He's the Deputy Commanding General. So when you think of, everybody's heard of the Army Corps of Engineers. When you think of that large organizations, we had the number 2 engineer in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers today, this week, looking at our infrastructure. And what I can say is that there is a huge focus right now on a number of aspects. Our BMT has had a lot of love through the military construction program over the last 10 years and continues. We're going to build another 4 airmen training centers over the next 5 to 6 years. But also our tech training schoolhouse has fallen a little bit behind in terms of the infrastructure. It's always a battle, trying to stay on top of that, Chief. So a special focus from General Milhorn coming down this week to really look at our infrastructure for our tech training school. The 343rd TRIS was part of it. The 344th TRIS was part of it, or TRS was part of it, and the 344th TRS. So that's a big focus for us going forward. We're really looking at that master plan. We had a couple projects that's been slowed down quite a bit, but we're looking at ways to try and speed those up and get those done as expediently as we can. So thanks so much to General Milhorn and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers coming in this week. So, and then also we graduated 6 MTIs this week.
Yes,
6
sir.
new MTIs. We have Tech Sergeant Himes, Tech Sergeant Gallagher, Tech Sergeant Green, Tech Sergeant Lewis, Tech Sergeant Miller, and Staff Sergeant Fierro. So we know you've been in MTI school for a bit now. Congratulations on your graduation, and soon to be in either the line or out on the tryst most likely as well. So big congratulations to them. All right, so the other thing is Chief and I had the opportunity to sit through the graduation again yesterday. Pretty awesome. We had 600 new trainees transfer over to Airmen. The 323rd, Lieutenant Colonel Van and Chief Lewis were the presiders, or actually the speakers. The presiding officer was Colonel Newsom. That was pretty awesome to see again, Chief.
Always is, sir. Always is.
Yeah. And so another thing that I was interested in, I was talking to Colonel Van, and he told me, hey, did you know that we've kind of started up the Airmen's Run again? I said, really? I wasn't aware of that. He said, yes, sir, our airmen are out innovating just like we talked about, and so we found a way to meet our CDC guidelines and get the Airmen's Run again. So for all the other training squadrons that are getting ready to graduate as we approach that day, I'm challenging you to continue to think just like the 323rd did, think your way through that. Get us back to normal ops as close as we can, and still with that culture of safety in mind. If we can do that Airmen's Run, we're going to do it to the best of our ability. All right, so also our tryst. Chief talked a little bit about that joint operation. Our tryst, the 341st TRS, our military working dogs, the executive agents for all of DoD. This week we found out that they met their annual goal for the number of dogs produced. That is a big deal. That's the second year in a row they've done that. So whether it's whatever type of dog it is, they go out. They're always out looking to procure new working dogs as time goes on, and able to bring them back and train them and get them into the pipeline, get them out to our installations, our bases, to make them safer. So far, we have been very effective the last 2 years, so congratulations again to the 341st TRS.
And it's interesting, those 2 points, sir, there's similarities, right? So, we have basic training for our Air Forces here, but for our military working dogs, this is basic training too, right? So the 341st, the training squadron, they do such a vital role of not only onboarding all the instructor cadre that go out there and all the dog handlers who go from being in the security forces ranks to become handlers across the joint community and TSA, but they're also raising all the dogs and training all the dogs too. So most people don't know the magnitude of that mission. You talk about almost 1,000 dogs at any given time that they're pushing, and then every base that you have dogs or you have handlers came from that squadron. It's a big deal.
Amazing. And like I said, it's not only impacting just the Air Force, but the entire Department of Defense and interagency, TSA and Department of Homeland Security, all happening right here because of those airmen, those soldiers, those Marines that are out there participating in it. Really cool. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit. I mentioned infrastructure. I want to talk about housing for a minute, Chief. Housing's been kind of a big deal this week. There was an article out in the paper that talked a little bit about some of the challenges in our housing. So we recognize that that's an ongoing issue, but we wanted to let our airmen know and our families know that we are tracking that issue. We know that the on-base privatized housing has been really good in some instances and not always hit the mark in some instances. So we want to let you know as a chain of command that we are fully aware and fully involved in that. Now, that being the case, there's a certain process we have to go through, Chief, to make sure we're doing it the right way. So for those of you out there that have any concerns or issues within their homes that live on base, first we want to make sure you're contacting what we call the project owner. That's Balfour Beatty. Those that work, that live on base, please make sure you're submitting your work orders. If you have any troubles from there, you can go to your military housing office. This is part of our civil engineer group associated with the 502nd Air Base Wing. Please go to them second. And then at that point, if you're unhappy, there's what we call a resident advocate. So that's a pretty new concept. The Air Force has really has started hiring those positions and started placing them throughout the installations. Those resident advocates, just like on the healthcare side where you have patient advocates, they are there. They are your representative. They are your face to that privatized project owner. So use those. But while you do it, please make sure you let your chain of command know what is going on so that we can be involved in it. We want to know how things are going. We don't want things to get so bad that you feel like you have no recourse but to go to outside means. With all that said, you absolutely can. You have every right to be able to use your congressman, the media, whoever you would like to, but we want to be able to be a part of the solution and help you solve those challenges. And so, Chief, any other thoughts on housing?
Yeah, I think, a lot of times, sir, it's tough because we try to handle things at necessarily the lowest possible level, right? That works a lot too. But we also want to make sure that we impress upon the point that this is absolutely a leadership issue. anything that affects the quality of life, the safety of any of our families, you know, that is something that is our business. And no one should ever feel intimidated or feel like they should feel reluctant to have that conversation. So I think that's important, and particularly something that you feel is below the standards, that where you can't sleep well at night, that you feel it's unacceptable. We also need to know about that too within the chain of command. So I just encourage you all. We're gonna get after this, sir. We're gonna take a look at some things. Hey, what can we get better in terms of? Are there any gaps that maybe the responsiveness isn't getting there, or maybe the options that go back don't necessarily meet the need. But again, one thing I think is significant, sir, in the past year is also the bill of, like the patient, or excuse me, not the homeowner, or the privatized, yes, the privatized bill of rights.
Bill of rights, absolutely.
So members who live in privatized housing that are military members have certain rights, and those have all been written down. So I just ask you that if anything is below the threshold on that, we got to make sure that we never settle there, sir.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks, Chief. Yeah, so again, commanders, leaders, supervisors, this is a hands-on sport. In my last assignment, I was a military assistant for the Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Installations, Environment, and Energy. Mr. John Henderson, he came here, he looked at the housing here, and that's exactly what he said. He said, commanders, this is a hands-on sport. You are involved. And so for our airmen out there, just know that we want to be part of that solution for you, okay? But we're going to do it in the right way as well. So, and thanks, Balfour Beatty. Thank you for what you do. We know you're working hard, and sometimes you don't always have the right resources. But just know that our airmen are the most important thing in the world to us, and we're gonna make sure they get taken care of, and we appreciate very much your help in doing the same. All right, Chief. Good. So we have a topic.
What's the theme this week, sir?
Mistakes.
Mistakes. Man.
Chief, I've probably made 20 mistakes sitting here just in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, I definitely just talked about the patient bill of rights. So there's one.
So that's the thing with mistakes. I'm all good with mistakes. One, I have to be because I make them all the time. My wingman's really good at pointing them out for me, and that's good because it helps me, and likewise, I do the same for him. Mistakes are good. Mistakes are healthy. You know, when we make mistakes when we're out there trying, pushing, trying to do new things, innovate. That's the only way you make progress is through mistakes. If you're trying to be perfect, guess what? You're not out there innovating. You're not out there trying. You're not out there constantly pushing the box, trying to move things forward. I love mistakes. Now, there's different types of mistakes, right? You can make, you know, what I call hustle mistakes. Hustle mistakes are the ones we want to see. It's when you do the right thing or the wrong thing for the right reason, or you do as long as you're doing it for the right reason. You know, you sometimes do the right thing for the right reason. Sometimes you do the right thing for the wrong reason. But it doesn't matter as long as you're trying to move things forward. That's what I think of when I think of mistakes.
And I think, you know, a lot of times, sir, we talk about excellence in all that you do, and sometimes people feel like, well, I have to get everything done, right? But you know, what is truly getting everything done? I think I'd recognize is that sometimes it's just about doing the most important things, versus all the things. And there's a point where you can actually stretch yourself too thin and even bring up more of that point. But I think is even in our creed we talk about failure, right? That I will not fail. I think the most important thing is that failure is if you do something for the wrong, so an ethical failure, right? That's something you should never do. But when we ask our airmen, we're asking them to make sure that they take a stand for the right reasons, they be good teammates, and you never fail on that regard. And if you do something for all the best of intentions, that's not failure. You're just learning, right? You're moving forward. You're breaking barriers. That is what airmen do. There's a lot of times where I think that sometimes people are too worried about being perfect, or too worried about being liked, or too worried about being popular. And that might be failure in itself. Sometimes I think failure to fail is failure itself.
That's right.
Right? Like if you're not pushing the envelope, you're not out there mixing it up, you're not learning. So I'd ask everybody to kind of think about that. The mistakes, if you deny yourself the opportunity to learn from them, that's really where it starts to damage you. If you take it and you own it, and then you communicate to those that say, hey, my bad team, we're going to get better next time, and you just move forward, I think things are actually, that's exactly what does happen.
Chief, you nailed it. So the mistakes that we can't tolerate are the mistakes of integrity, right? Those mistakes are different types of mistakes. But those are the mistakes we really want our airmen to think about long and hard. That said, you know, we talk about failure. You know, we've all had failures probably, and we've all learned a lot from it. This is not, you know, my opinion, this is not a one mistake Air Force. you can make mistakes. It depends on what the mistake is. But a lot of times, this Air Force will give you that opportunity to recover from that mistake. It depends what it is. Now, there will be accountability. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you're not going to be held responsible for the mistakes you make. But what I am saying is when you make the decision for the wrong reason, you do the wrong thing for the wrong reason, and make the wrong type of mistake, you'll be held accountable, but you can. It is an opportunity to recover. So we've all had mistakes. We've all failed from time to time. I've learned more from my failures probably than I ever have from my successes. No doubt about it. So, Chief, I was thinking about books and movies that we can relate to, things that mean something to us personally that associate with mistake. You had a couple that you wanted to share, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so movies, I was thinking about this one a little bit, and I would have to say Click with Adam Sandler.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So he assumes, hey, I've got so much going on, if I could just skip through these moments. And then, he gets this magical remote, and he can just press fast forward in life. And he can just skip all that stuff that to him, he thought, hey, that's not value added. But he really realizes every moment we have is purposeful. It's valuable. It's precious. And I think, sir, that is the mistake if we look past that. If we think that, life isn't necessarily these highs and lows as much, if we can just be present in the moment that we're given with the people we're with. And I think that the mistake in that one was he had missed that at first, but the lesson was at the end he realized you can't miss him. You can't live without him.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Definitely. So the movie that I'd recommend is a movie called History of Violence. Doesn't sound very good in terms of watchability, and I would definitely say it's not right for the kiddos. But it's about a guy who spends his life doing the wrong things for the wrong reasons, as we talked about. And as time goes on, he starts to get kind of this feeling within him that he's not living the lifestyle or the right way of life. And so he runs off and he leaves that life behind, and he goes and he changes his identity, and he settles into a small town, and he has a family. And he starts becoming a part of the community. He starts kind of transcending his past, and he starts doing the right things for the right reasons. And so in the end, he ultimately goes back, and it's like I said, it's not right for the kiddos. And he takes out all the mobsters because they were a threat to his way of life and also a threat to just society as a whole. And so it was kind of a story of redemption, and it was just a really good movie in my opinion. So you had a book you wanted to share us too?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah, so I believe it's Dan Milhorn. I hope I'm not messing that up, but it is The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. And what this book basically talks about is you have this very successful young man, extremely successful in college and sports. He basically thinks he has everything at his fingertips and can do everything. And then he gets into an accident. And there's actually a movie about it too, The Peaceful Warrior. And then basically he almost gets forgotten, right? So all those things that he thought were valuable to him, and he was so intelligent and so smart and so superior to everybody, they were basically all ripped away from him in one moment. And when I was reflecting on it a little bit, I was also looking up some quotes, and Jim Carrey said this. He said he wished that everybody in the world could have all the riches, all the materials, everything they ever dreamed of, to realize that none of that ever mattered. I think the whole purpose of that, and the same purpose of the book, sir, is realizing that it's not about material gains. It's not about chasing rank. It's not about sitting in certain offices one day. It's about having precious memories and moments again with the people we have the opportunity to share life with.
Being present in the moment.
Being present in that moment, sir, and just realizing the best thing we can do is just to be there for each other. And I think like that is what's, there's a reason why solitary confinement is the most severe form of punishment. It's because we're not built to be alone, sir.
Right.
So we got to make sure that in that process that we don't lose sight of that.
Yeah. I think the other thing you're saying is don't be afraid to be in the moment. Don't be afraid to go out there and stretch yourself. Do some things that aren't always comfortable for you, because it's the only opportunity you're going to get in this world.
And that's what the book talks about, is his fight back to realizing that and really discover what he was built to be in the first place.
So I didn't have a book to share, but I did have some that resonated with me, and it was Mark Wahlberg. Everybody's heard Mark Wahlberg, right? So
which version of Mark Wahlberg?
Well, so yes, exactly, because there's a couple different versions. Well, I'm talking about the real person, the human being. But Mark Wahlberg, the kid, was a punk. I mean, by all admissions, he was, truancy was common with him. He did the wrong things for the wrong reasons across the board. But as he grew, he learned about the mistakes. He began to empathize with other people. He wasn't self-centered. He became selfless, and he started to become not only very good at what he did, his craft in acting and performance, but he also became a philanthropist, and he ended up caring a lot about other people's, and so a lot of people. So, you know, he had a criminal record that he attempted to have expunged, still working through that. But you know what? He didn't let it define him. And so you hear that one story about somebody that's in the public eye, but we've heard a million stories about that from within our Air Force. You know, how many Chief Master Sergeants in our Air Force have said, you know what, when I was an airman, I had an Article 15, and guess what? It's not a one mistake Air Force. I learned from my mistakes. I paid the price. I overcame it. Look at where I am today, all because of that. So again, you learn a lot more from your failures than you ever do from your successes.
I think a lot about Mark Wahlberg particularly is that, you know, if he's known for being anything, he's just known for being a good dude. He's just a good person, right? That is his reputation now. Yeah. What might not have always been that, but that's what people know him for.
And he's a good dude because he is.
Yep.
Just because he wasn't before doesn't mean he isn't now.
Yep, absolutely.
He isn't. So, all right. So we're kind of wrapping up Freeform Friday, episode 3. One thing I wanted to do a shout out. I know we got a lot of trainee parents out there, whether they're in BMT, whether they're at tech training. I want to say we see you. We know you're out there. We know you're continually dying for information on your young, in your sons and daughters. I just wanted to remind you that Chief says this all the time. It inspired me a little bit and says, hey, there's 2 names on these tags, right? There's 2 names, 2 families. So you got your family name here. This is the family that raised you. This is the family you grew up with. And this is your Air Force family. This is a family you're with now. That doesn't mean that either family doesn't exist. They both exist. But I want to say to those parents and those families that are out there, we got your sons and daughters. We love them just like you love them. They're in our family now. We know you can't see them because of the restricted movement that we have, but we are thinking of ways to improve upon that. We are thinking of ways to get your sons and daughters' faces out there for you to see a little bit more. We're doing our best we can, but just know they're with this family now. So, and we love them just like you do. So,
cool. Yes, sir.
All right. So with that will conclude. Do we have any, just out of curiosity, did we get any questions?
Of the 5 people who are tuned in?
We got up to 80, and people are saying, thank you so much for addressing them personally, sir.
Oh, wow. All right. Thank you all for what you do each and every day for the Gateway Wing. While we, as a wing, we took a lot of credit today from the Secretary, the Chief of Staff, and the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, there is no doubt about what makes this wing go, and that is all of you. So thank you.
That wasn't even rehearsed. That was just bang.
This is Freeform Friday. That's just what it is, right? So we love you all out there, and we can't wait to continue to see you and continue to work with you. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of your lives.